Leon S. Kennedy is one of those fictional humans who can almost damn near do anything. He is literally the type of guy the government calls when there's a boogeyman, a bioweapon, or some supernatural looking creature that should be impossible to kill. And somehow Leon is still the one walking out at the end. So what if Leon S. Kennedy got the call to investigate the backrooms? Could he actually survive long enough to understand what he's dealing with, fight off the creatures living inside, and somehow find a way back out? Now, for this scenario, I'm going to be using Kane Parsons' version of the backrooms from the movie. So we're not going to be including hundreds of fan-made levels, creatures from the backrooms wiki, or anything else that doesn't exist in this specific version. And that actually makes this matchup much more interesting because Kane's backrooms aren't really dangerous because they contain some unstoppable godlike monster. They are dangerous because the environment itself is confusing and capable of messing with people inside of it. Now, Leon has basically spent his entire adult life being punished for investigating suspicious locations. His first day as a police officer ends with Raccoon City being completely overrun by zombies, and within hours he's navigating the Raccoon City Police Department and hidden passageways while being hunted by zombies. And by Resident Evil 4, he's been trained by the government. He's much more experienced, and he's sent completely alone into a foreign village to rescue the president's daughter from an unknown threat. And within a short amount of time, Leon realizes that the villagers are infected with something, and the mission is much bigger than he originally thought. And instead of panicking, he adapts, and that's probably exactly what happens when he enters the backrooms. Now, Leon would immediately realize something is wrong with the environment. The difference is Leon doesn't need to understand what exactly the backrooms are before he starts taking precautions. He would begin tracking where he's been, mapping out everywhere he goes within the backrooms, similar to what Clark did when he showed Mary the map of the backrooms that he explored. But the biggest difference between Leon and Clark is that Clark becomes obsessed with discovering what the backrooms are. Leon's first priority would be focused on figuring out how to leave, save people, and destroy any threat lingering in the backrooms, because he's already seen what happens when scientists and governments discover something they don't understand and decide they want to control it. Umbrella basically ruined his entire life by doing exactly that. So if Leon sees Async studying some impossible dimension filled with malformed creatures and unstable environments, he's probably immediately going to try to stop this operation. Eventually though, Leon is going to encounter the still lifes, and this is where the situation becomes a lot more familiar for him. The still lifes are disturbing because they resemble people without actually being human. They are warped recreations produced by the backrooms, and some of them are much more aggressive than others. Captain Clark is easily the biggest threat among them. He's a huge deformed version of Clark's pirate character and is strong enough to overpower normal people, drag victims away, kill Async personnel, and eventually kill Clark himself. Now, Captain Clark is dangerous, but Leon has fought things that are significantly more physically impressive. El Gigante is an enormous monster capable of throwing Leon around and destroying structures, and Leon defeats it. Chief Mendez transforms into a giant mutated creature and chases Leon through a burning building. So it's pretty safe to say that Captain Clark really isn't a threat to Leon. If anything, he's just one-liner away from certain death. But the important thing is Leon wouldn't try to overpower Captain Clark. Leon fights pretty intelligently, so if Captain Clark comes charging through a hallway, Leon creates distance and starts shooting. He would probably begin with his handgun simply because that's usually his primary weapon. But the second he realizes that bullets aren't really stopping the creature where he wants him to be, Leon would switch his tactics. Leon also wouldn't immediately start shooting everything that moves. That's another thing people sometimes forget about him. Leon is a government agent, but he's not a mindless killing machine. He constantly tries to protect victims, determine who actually poses a threat, and help people whenever possible. If a still life is simply standing there or acting afraid, Leon would probably keep his weapon trained on it and move past. But if one charges him, attacks Mary, or tries to drag somebody away, Leon isn't hesitating anymore. And this is where the matchup actually gets really good. The backrooms become much more dangerous when they start using his memories against him. Now, the movie shows that this place can reproduce distorted versions of people and locations connected to whoever is inside. And that's really terrifying when you think about what Leon would bring into the backrooms. Backrooms because this guy has decades of horrible memories and PTSD for this place to work with. Imagine Leon turning a corner and suddenly seeing the Raccoon City Police Department, and at first everything would look completely normal. Maybe he even hears Marvin's voice coming from upstairs, but then he notices that one hallway is slightly too long, or a door is in the wrong place, or Marvin says something that Leon knows he never said. But also, the Backrooms could recreate Ashley screaming for help somewhere deeper inside. It could also create Claire, Sherry, Marvin, or anybody else Leon has either protected or failed to save. And this is probably the biggest weakness Leon has in the entire matchup, because Leon cannot ignore somebody who needs help. If he hears someone screaming, he's going towards them. That's not just something he can just turn off. Resident Evil 4 is basically Leon willingly entering worse and worse situations because Ashley is still missing. Even after Leon gets infected with Las Plagas, and even after nearly dying multiple times, he never seriously considers abandoning the mission. So if the Backrooms creates a fake Ashley and Leon hears her calling for him, there's a good chance he follows the voice initially. But then again, Leon isn't stupid. He would probably realize that, wait, this is fake. But then again, in the Backrooms, every single illusion that you enter feels really real. But I don't think the Backrooms would be able to fool him indefinitely. Leon is incredibly observant when something doesn't quite fit. He has spent years uncovering conspiracies and fighting enemies that transform or pretend to be something they're not. Eventually, one of these recreations would make a mistake. Maybe it says something the real person wouldn't know, and once Leon realizes the Backrooms are using his memories to lure him deeper, he becomes much more harder to manipulate. This also completely changes what happens to Bobby, Kat, Mary, and Clark, because Leon isn't the type of person who escapes and leaves everybody else behind. If Leon is accompanying Clark, Kat, and Bobby during their exploration, I think Bobby has a better chance of surviving. When something grabs Bobby, Leon isn't just going to pull on a rope and hope they can overpower the creature. The moment Leon sees what's happening, he is dropping down immediately and attacking whatever attacked him directly. And I think that was Captain Clark that attacked him. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. And if Kat becomes separated somewhere inside the Backrooms, Leon goes after her too. He's not just leaving somebody behind unless there is literally no other option. And unlike Clark, who slowly becomes more interested in the Backrooms themselves, Leon keeps the survivors focused on one objective: stay together and find the exits.
Now, before we continue this video any further, if you haven't already subscribed, it would mean the world to me if you did. I am currently on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and if you've been enjoying these videos, there's plenty more content like this on the way. Every new subscriber helps me get one step closer to that goal, so thank you guys so much for the support, and let's get back to the video.
The situation becomes much more serious once Mary enters the Backrooms, because now Leon has somebody else he absolutely needs to protect. Towards the end of the movie, Mary encounters Clark after he completely lost himself due to the Backrooms. Clark has surrounded himself with things the Backrooms created and is no longer thinking normally. And instead of trying to escape, he basically accepted the Backrooms as his new life. Mary tries to force Clark to confront what he's done and understand that staying there isn't actually going to fix anything. Leon would try the same thing before using force, and I don't think Leon walks into the room and immediately treats Clark like a villain that needs to die. He would recognize pretty quickly that Clark is mentally broken. Leon has also dealt with people being controlled or driven insane before, so this wouldn't really be too much different. His first instinct would probably be getting Mary away from him and then trying to talk Clark into leaving. Leon would probably understand Clark better than Clark expects, because Leon knows what it's like to spend years carrying things you couldn't prevent. Raccoon City never really completely leaves him, and the people who died there never come back. If Clark actually listens, Leon gets everybody moving immediately. But if Clark refuses to listen, Leon still doesn't abandon Mary. That's where his priorities become extremely clear. Leon will try to save everybody, but he's not going to sacrifice Mary and the other survivors just because Clark refuses to leave. And this leads directly into the Captain Clark confrontation near the end. In the movie, Captain Clark eventually turns on the real Clark and becomes the physical manifestation of everything that's gone wrong. If Leon is there, that entire sequence changes. The moment Captain Clark appears, Leon gets Mary behind him, he tells Clark to move, pulls his weapon, and immediately starts attacking the creature before it can reach either of them. Now, if Clark is completely unreal, unreachable at this time and Leon couldn't convince him, he would probably just get himself killed anyway, or he would run deeper into the backrooms. And this is where Leon's ridiculous Resident Evil durability starts becoming useful too. If Captain Clark actually hits him, Leon isn't automatically finished. No, I'm not saying Captain Clark couldn't hurt him, because he absolutely could, but a couple hits from Captain Clark isn't going to take Leon out of the fight, because he has survived worse hits from worse enemies. The final challenge would be finding the way out, and this is where I think Leon's preparation from the beginning pays off. If he has been marking his route and paying attention to the environments, he has a much better chance of retracing his steps back than Clark did once he became obsessed with exploring deeper. That is why I think putting Leon S. Kennedy into Kane Parsons Backrooms doesn't just result in Leon surviving. I think Leon genuinely changes the entire outcome of the story. Bobby has a better chance because Captain Clark has to deal with somebody who could actually fight back. Kat has someone trained enough to search for her without immediately getting himself killed, and Mary doesn't have to face the final escape alone because Leon would make protecting her one of his main objectives. And Clark actually gets someone willing to confront him while still giving him the opportunity to come back to reality. And Captain Clark, instead of being this unstoppable monster tearing through normal people, suddenly has to fight a man who has spent his entire life killing creatures that look exactly like him. And I don't even think Leon needs to permanently kill Captain Clark to win. That's also important because we don't know enough about these still lifes to confidently say exactly what would permanently destroy one. And Leon has dealt with that situation before. Mr. X can be shot repeatedly and continue getting back up. Now, Leon understands that sometimes the smartest option isn't killing the enemy. Sometimes it's literally slowing it down long enough to accomplish the actual mission. Now, the backrooms would still give Leon serious problems, and his instinct to save people could absolutely be used against him. And if you randomly drop Leon into the deepest possible section with no entrance, no async information, and possibly no way of knowing where he came from, then I think the argument becomes much more closer. You can't shoot starvation, and Leon can't magically create an exit if there genuinely isn't one nearby. So by the end of the story, Captain Clark is either disabled or trapped, and the aggressive still lifes are no longer stopping them. Mary is rescued, and the survivors Leon can reach are brought back together. And Clark either finally accepts what he's done and leaves them, or gets left behind only after Leon has exhausted every other possible way of saving him. So that is my final answer. He protects the people trapped inside, beats Captain Clark, fights through everything the backrooms throws at him, saves Mary, and gives Clark one final chance to save himself. So yes, I do think Leon S. Kennedy could solo Kane Parsons Backrooms. Well, technically from what we already know from the first movie. Maybe the second movie gets a little harder.